is just grab some footage, and this footage is going to be a background plate and you in the same place playing out your position of flying. So let's import in our background plate first, okay, and move it right to the beginning of the timeline. So we move it to the beginning of the timeline and we scrub forward a bit, and yeah, that looks nice. Next we're going to find a clip of me acting out the footage, and I will just import that over the one of me with the background plate. So I'll just scrub it to the right place. Now in this instance I didn't scrub it exactly to the right place, so I have to zoom in and just move it so it kind of fits nicely. Okay, so I'll just zoom out again, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, as you can see, I'm acting out my flying, but I don't actually fly up. And I want to find a point where I want to move out of frame in a still. So it could either be that point or down or there. I'm not sure. So now I'm going to zoom in and I'll just scrub forward a frame or so, and I think I'm happy with this. So yeah, that looks nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'll just zoom out and I'll go Command Shift D or Control Shift D if you are not a Mac user. Okay? So what this does is it basically cuts the footage in half, or wherever you want to cut it. And now I'll just right click it and I'm going to go to time and I'll go to freeze frame. Okay, so now what I've done is basically all my footage is of me in that position, which is great. So now what I'm going to do is I'll grab my masking tool and I'll go fit up to 200, okay, and I'll grab my space bar and I'll find the beginning and I'll grab my mask tool, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a rough mask around my shape, okay? So as you can see, it does not need to be perfect. I would go into a lot more detail if this mask was going to be in the frame for a long time. And when you're in a mask and you're zoomed in, the only problem is how do you go up? All you need to do is grab the space bar and then and then at the same time when you grab it, make sure you have the mouse or whatever it is held and you can just scrub through. As you can see, I am leaving in some of the motion blur that is created at this point because we want it, and I think it's going to be nice when we use it. So as you can see, I'm going around my head now. I actually want to keep in the ears because they're quite distinct, but your preferences are up to you, okay? And another note here, which is that if your point is too close to another point, it just goes back. So you need to take that in mind when you're masking. This happened twice for me while I was doing this, so I just fixed that. And now as you can see, I'm leaving in the motion blur around my mask. So when you're doing this, go ahead and mask. It doesn't matter how well you mask, just try to mask it as best you can. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you don't want it to be horrible either. And so I'm onto the legs now. I'll just hit my space bar, move forward a bit, and I'll go ahead and finish this mask off. There's only one problem. I still have my part of the wall between my legs, so I'll just make 3 points there, and I'll move one of the points, the middle point actually, I'll move the middle point up. Okay, great, we have our mask and it's looking fine, but it still won't look like it's exactly there. So there we go, we've done our freeze frame. And I'll just close down my panel and I'll hit F and bring up mask feather, and I'll feather it to about 10 or lower or higher, whichever works best for you. Okay, I'll close this down. Okay, and I'll go fit up to 200. So now, as you can see, we have a pretty nice mask and showing everything extremely nicely. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit P and bring up position. Okay, I'll start my stopwatch. Okay, I'll go right to the beginning. Okay, so as you can see, it's quite a nice transition. I'll go to the beginning of my shot and I'll start the position stopwatch. I'll move to the point I want it to go up or down. Okay, now what I want to show you about position is when you think it might be going up, which is, for example, making the numbers go bigger, like I did here. I made it about 3,000. It doesn't actually make it go up, it actually makes it go down. So there's a little tip for you. If you want to make it go down, then you're going to be going up in the number, okay? I don't know why it's like that, but it's not going up, it's actually going down. So basically, if you want to go up, you're going to have to go minus 3,000. Because as you can see, I just go down there and it's sloppy. So, basically, yeah, if you want to go to the left or right, you just scroll through on the other one, and that's fine too. But I don't recommend going to the left or right in this project. I just recommend going up or down. Because if you're up in the air already and you want to fly down, then you would use those numbers. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go minus 3,000, because our video is not going down, our video is going up. So now let's check out a preview. We have a pretty nice clip of us getting ready to stance, and I just kind of fly up like that. Now I'll just enable motion blur, and I'll also enable my motion blur on that big motion blur, okay? So basically, if you don't enable it on the big one, it's not going to have motion blur, okay? Great, so we have something looking nice, and I'm basically going up. But as you can see, there's that point where I'm just still, and that doesn't look very good, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll just select the footage, right, like that, and I'll move it up a bit, so we don't have so much of a feeling that I'm just staying still for all that time, okay? And yeah, I think that's looking better, okay? Great. But now there's of course a few other things to do, okay? I actually don't have feet in this, so what I need to do is make a solid. If you have feet, then just skip this step. Make it a similar color. Now, cut it to the point where your footage or your still frame begins and your still frame ends. Of course, as I said before, if you have feet, well, that's easier for you. But I'm going to turn this layer off, and I'll scrub to a point where you should be able to see my feet, kind of here. And what I'm going to do is I'll grab my masking tool, and I'll just make a mask of a leg. It doesn't have to be in the right place, because we can change that later on. Okay, but as you can see, I still have some of my leg, so I don't have to do all of it. Okay, so as you can see here, I am only making one, but because I have two there, what I need to do, I'll just hit Command Z, and I'll just make a mask of 2 feet. They can be connected or not connected. Making them connected is a lot easier, so that's what I'm doing. So as you can see, I'm making a mask. It doesn't have to look exactly like feet, of course, because it's not going to be seen for that long. And well, you know, they're not that easy to make. So I'll just turn this on and I'll just move it to the point where my feet should be. Okay? Right about there, looks nice. And there we go. So now I'll get rid of the enable the masking, and I'll hit F, bring up feather, and I'll feather it a load. However much you want to feather it is fine by me. For me, 34 worked, but for you it could be higher or less. These are the numbers I found. You might find different numbers which work for you, okay? So, now we have this, okay? As you can see, my clip begins a bit before, so I'll have to trim that just to make it look nice, okay? So, now I'll hit P and bring up position. Okay, I'll start the stopwatch and I'll go right to the beginning because I'm a bit forward. Okay, and I'll just move it up as I fly up. So basically, this is just the feet so that if someone pauses the video, they won't think, hey, why doesn't this guy have feet? When he's flying up. Anyway, so now my feet are out of frame, okay? And they follow it pretty nicely. Let's check out a preview. There we go. Now these feet do stick out a tiny bit, and that's not always wanted. So I had to go ahead and fix that. Okay, so the way I did it was just by hitting T and changing its opacity down to about 78. Okay, so I changed it to 78. And now you can kind of see through my legs and they're a bit less shown. So it's harder to see them. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate my original footage of my mask. And I'm going to move it over to where the door is. And I'm just going to hit P on this. And I'll just undo my stopwatch, okay? So now we have two me's basically, but we don't want that, so I'll hit S, bring scale, and I'll scale it down. Basically what we're doing is we're creating a shadow on the door. So right about there, a bit to the right, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to turn my I have to enable the showing my mask, and I'm just going to zoom in like so. And the reason I'm doing this is because before I freeze frame it, my shadow does not really affect the chair, so it shouldn't affect the chair when I'm flying either. So as you can see, I'm just cropping this out. Okay, I'm not doing it exact because it's not going to be seen for that long, and we're going to be doing a bunch of feathering and so on. So you don't have to go full on with everything. Okay. Now we're going to change a bunch of settings to make it look like the shadow in my original shot. Okay, first of all, I'll just hit F, bring mask feather. You can change the mask feather how you like. The higher you put your mask feather, like I did here, okay, the more of the door or whatever it is you are going to see, which is not exactly what you want. So I just changed it to about 100. And that made it a bit better, okay? 100 worked for me, but you can also change it to 190, 150, whatever you want. I just don't want that poster showing too much. Next I'm going to hit opacity, and I'm going to bring my opacity down quite a lot too, because we don't want it to be that visible since it's a shadow in the background. Okay, so we change it to 75. Then what I'm going to do is I'll go to Effect, Color Correction, and I'll go all the way down to Tint. Tint is quite useful for me, so what I'm going to do is I'll find this white one, and I'll make it a kind of grayish black color, okay? Now, for me, this was a mistake, because as you can see, you can still see my bliss sign, okay? And that doesn't look very nice, so I tried turning my opacity down a bit. And I left my opacity at this because it was kind of fine anyway. But it still showed my sign saying bliss on it, which I didn't really like, and because the door didn't have a reflection before, it shouldn't now. I tried to turn my amount to tint down, but that doesn't work. It just changes how much it is affected by the grain. So I made that 100 again, and what I did was I just went back to my color of the tint. Okay, so I fit it up to 200 to see, but it was a reflection. So I just went to Map White 2, and I clicked on it, and I made it completely black, okay? And that is pretty much what you want to do. And now we have a nice looking shadow. And it looks like it is on the door and everything is fine. So I'll hit P, bring up position, and I'll start the stopwatch. Okay, I will go back a bit and that shadow looks fine. Okay, I'll move forward to where I fly up a bit, and I'll bring my flying up. I will move forward again, okay, to about there. And I'm going to bring my shadow up again. As you can see, it's also starting to affect the wall too. And I like to look at this, and I went to when it was out of shot, and I just moved my shadow out of frame too. And basically now we have a shadow, and it's pretty similar to the last one. So we have it flying up with my legs, and just like that. So this is what it looks like. Okay guys, so I just hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I put a lot of effort into this, so it will be pretty nice. Also, can you tell me what you want me to do next week, and I will try to do your effect. I hope this flying effect was useful for you, but till then, see you next time.